down in. You're going to roll it down in 3, 2, 1, and action. Hi everybody, my name is Scott Hillier. I'm an independent film director and president of ECU, the European Independent Film Festival, as well as the All Asian Independent Film Festival. Welcome to another edition of ECU Friday Live, and today we've got a very, very interesting guest and somebody that we've pushed hard to get because he fascinates me from his Instagram channel. And so I'm sure that's going to be the same for everybody else. His name is William Akers. He's author of Your Screenplay Sucks. And I have to tell you, I've heard that many times in my career. So I look forward to hearing more about that. He's a WGA Lifetime member, has written for studios, independent producers, and network television. He's had 3 features produced from his screenplay. And his novel, Mrs. Ravenbuck's Way, was traditionally published. He taught at Vanderbilt University for 19 years, and he co-founded Key to Storytelling, which offers self-paced screenwriting courses. I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit about that later. He consults with screenwriting clients all around the world and is giving workshops in Paris, London, Beijing, and all around the United States. He says he speaks reasonable French, so we could have this in French if he wants, and was a Jeopardy contestant. He didn't win, but I do look forward to asking him a little bit more about that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody to William Akers. How are you doing, William?
Just great. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Where are we talking to you from today?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice. Excellent. So, William, tell us a little bit about you and your journey up to where we are.
Let's see. I'm just trying to hide my video because I don't like looking at myself. I know what I look like. From here, I went to college here. I went to graduate school at USC in Los Angeles to learn how to do filmmaking, and started writing there. Really, I had written some in college, but not very much, not with any really serious intent. I'd always wanted to be a cartoonist. That was my main goal in life for all my years up until after college. And then comic strips went away. I wasn't interested in comic books. I liked the ones in the newspapers every day. Yeah. And that kind of went away. A story strip went away. And I thought, oh, well, that's just a panel, like a film. It's the same thing. That's how I got into filmmaking and writing. And I got exceedingly lucky. The first script I wrote, I gave to a friend at school. And she gave it to someone who gave it to someone who gave it to someone. And then it got produced. And I thought, oh, this is easy. You write a movie and then they make your movie. And it turns out that was really not the case. And so then I just started writing. And I moved back to Nashville, kept writing, teached at Vanderbilt. Teach.
New words. Hey, you are speaking French.
I taught at Vanderbilt. And then I did that for a long time. And then another university asked me to start their program. And I did that for 10 years. And now I'm off on my own with my business partner doing Key to Storytelling. And that's what the Instagram page came from.
So tell us a little bit about the Instagram page. We're gonna give it a plug because I love it. It's Key to Storytelling. And
I enjoyed doing it. We've been doing it almost a year, and it's been fun to do. I knew nothing about Instagram. I basically just do what my business partner tells me to do. And she said, do it this way, and then we write them together. I do the first draft, she rewrites it, makes it better, and then I just tweak whatever little things need to be changed. And she does the carousels, and then I do what you see is what I do.
Okay.
And she's the mastermind behind the whole thing.
Well,
and it's great. It's fun to read the comments. People really seem to be responding, and they like what I'm telling them, which is fantastic.
And you can count me as one of them. So you can tell your business partner she's doing a great job, because I have a lot of things to do, but I do spend time on them. So thank you very much. But William, tell me a little bit about Your Screenplay Sucks, 100 Ways to Make It Great.
Oh, there's my book. Yes, right. Which you should all buy 10 copies of at least.
We've ordered 100 for the office. Don't worry.
I sound like an idiot when I say this, but it's a really good book. What it is different than most screenwriting books. Is how it got published. Is you do something different than they want it. It's a checklist of things not to do. basically. Don't do these things and you'll be okay. It's supposed to be saying, here's what you should do, although there's a lot of that. It's a, don't do these things, because your goal as a beginning writer is to write a script that the reader will read down to fade out. Start it at the beginning, go all the way to the end. That's what you want. And so that's what the book is aimed at, is don't make these mistakes that will stop a reader from reading. And it's done really well, and it's taken me all over the world, which is fantastic.
Do you have a top 3 that you could let us know now for these people that have not yet bought the book?
Well, I think print to rewrite and proofread is incredibly important. It's a pain in the neck because toner is the most expensive liquid on the face of the earth. And so it's expensive to get paper and print it, but I firmly believe that you cannot successfully rewrite or proofread anything that you don't have a hard copy of. I start on a typewriter, so it's natural for me to have a piece of paper. But if you're writing in a computer, every now and then you got to print it, and then you got to proofread it. Because if you have proofreading mistakes in your script, it enrages the people reading it,
and they'll throw it straight away.
It doesn't irritate them. It makes them white hot angry. Because as I had Terrence Winter was a guest in my class a year or two ago, and he said, if you don't care, why should I care? Which I thought that was pretty telling. What else? What else is a good thing to think about from the book? The opponent. I mean, the opponent is, I think, in some ways, not more important than the main character, but really, really important, because the opponent, if the opponent doesn't exist, the main character can't change. And so you have to have the opponent be what's called the agent of change for the main character. That's really important. But one of the things I think is important is you have to know why the opponent wants this thing that they want. Not just what they want, which is bringing them up against the main character, but it's also why they want it, because that's motivating them for the whole story. And you kind of need to know, and it's often a very sympathetic reason, but they're just doing horrible things to get this thing. What else? Get the format right. You got to get the format right. I mean, literally, I was in a producer's office. There's a thing called orphan words, which is where you have a paragraph like that with one tiny word right at the bottom of it is an orphan hanging at the bottom of a paragraph. And this producer picked up this script in his office, was just flipping through the pages, looking and pointing at the orphan words, and he said, "Oh, this is a beginning writer."
Well, that's very interesting.
So
I mean, I've been writing
those
for a
out,
long
the
time,
person
and
reading the
I've
script
never heard of that
We're
one.
going to know.
Wow, great. Well, that's very good. I mean, I think there's got a few people in the office here shaking or nodding their head in agreement, because I make them print stuff out and read it out loud.
And read it out loud. Oh, yes. You have to read it out loud.
They have a horror of it. Trust me, I haven't done it with this.
You are 1,000% correct. They are 1,000% wrong.
I normally have a poetry box in the office, and we have people from all around the world here, and I ask them to stand on the box and read poetry. Not many people like that, but it's a very, very good lesson about reading out loud and understanding, and I'm glad that you can back me up on that. So that's
and you have to. One of the great things about having it in a binder, when you have a 3-ring binder and you printed it, it's got the 3 holes and all of that, and you laid it out. You have that page on the left side that's blank, where you read your right side and you can make notes over here. That's incredibly handy.
Yeah. No. So that's great. Out of curiosity, how long did it take you to write the book?
It was 6-8 months, I guess. I don't know. I dictated it. Back then, I had assistants at my Vanderbilt students were my assistants working for me, the screenwriter, not working for me, the teacher. And so I dictated the book and someone typed it up, and all of a sudden then I had a hard copy, which was great. So I just would take walks in the morning and dictate into a recorder, and then they'd do that. Now AI can do that for you. I dictated my book. I dictated the second book, the novel, because it's the only, when I was doing that job, literally the only time I had to myself, because I couldn't write, I was too busy at the school, was in the car. So I talked into my phone. Now you have a notes thing in your phone, and it transcribes it for you and corrects the spelling for you, and then you immediately have a hard copy. I think dictation is fantastic. You have to, it's great for brainstorming, because who cares? You just fill a page and there it is. But you have to, if you're actually writing when you're dictating, you have to really think about it so that it sounds like writing as opposed to talking. But that you can do. But I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of dictation. That's a very long answer to how long did it take you to write the book.
No, but it's great because I'm writing something at the moment, and I always handwrite whenever I'm just, because for me dialogue, I need to write it out the same pace as when I speak it. It makes sense.
Right.
I've just spent like 2 months writing long form, just bang, 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 bang.
I've written entire screenplays longhand, and it changes the way your mind hits the page. It's really helpful.
Because you're not worrying about, I'm not a touch typer, so you're worried about where the hell's the S and whatever. And I just sat down the other day, there's a software that I came across with Tony Robbins, actually. It's called Otter, otter.ai. I don't get any money for them or whatever. But I just I just wrote all this stuff out and then just sat there and I read it into my computer, and it appeared as if magic into Word. And I'm like,
it is magic.
It is magic.
Not as if.
And it just makes the whole process easier, because I'm sure, as you know, and Stephen Pressfield and all these people, they say the hardest thing about writing a script or a book or whatever is just doing it, just picking up the pen or the thing. Now you don't even have to, you're just talking to your computer. I mean, I do take notes beforehand and then clean it up. And as Hemingway said, writing's not hard, it's rewriting that's hard.
And then also I found is knowing that you must rewrite is hard. Because a lot of people, it's done. And this is why typewriters are great, or writing by hand is great, especially if you're left-handed, which I am. If you write with a pencil, your hand smears the page as you've written it. So your first draft automatically looks like garbage. And so you go, well, this looks terrible, I got to rewrite it. But you print it on a printer, it looks great.
Yeah.
It's done. And so that's writing by hand. It's good. But the hard part is to know how much rewriting you really have to do before you're done. It's hard if you're just beginning to understand how much more you can do, and then after that how much more you can do, and it can just get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter over and over again. And that's pretty hugely important.
Yeah, I was explaining to one of our young staff the other day about writing a short sentence is 100 times harder than writing a long sentence.
Well, yeah, what was the thing when Mark Twain said, if you want me to make an hour speech, I can get it to you tomorrow. If you want me to you want to do a 10-minute speech, it'll take me a week.
Yeah.
And because to get it, and that's what a screenplay is, because my credo is nobody wants to read this thing you wrote. And you pay me, I'll give you notes. I'll be happy to read it, but I won't really want to. And your teachers in school don't want to read your stuff. In heavenly days, nobody in Hollywood wants to read it because they hate to read. So you got to make sure that it is easy to read. I mean, this is the favorite page for one of those people to get. Notice how your eye falls effortlessly to the bottom of the page. It's such a quick read.
Right.
Sadly, you can't write on a blank page, but so that's important.
I've written I've made a lot of TV, like lots of TV, and written some films and made some films. Again, we're talking to a bunch of very, very keen, interested independent filmmakers and want to be, Oscar winners. The thing that's always got tricky is, when do you ask for advice? When's your moment of handing it to somebody and saying, look after my baby and tell me what it's all about?
That's a great question, man alive. So hopefully if it's a school, you've got people in your class that are giving good notes, and your teacher's giving you notes. And if you're not in school, you have a writer's group, or you form a writer's group. You get like-minded people. That's one of the things we want to do through Key to Storytelling, is get people to meet each other. And then, because we're teaching a class, and I hope that after the class is over, people that took the class will be able to get together, because you got to find people to read your stuff and give you notes. And so they're going to be at your level, but they're going to be maybe better at this than you are, or something. You find the people that are good at it and you buy them lunch and you be nice to them forever. So after that, if you find someone who's real, which is my definition of someone who's in the business, like you're real, and ask them to read it for you, as if you ask somebody for notes, not like, I want you to read my script because maybe you want to make it, but you want to just give me notes, give me advice. First thing is be very courteous of their time and understand what a big ask you've made. And then when you have the meeting with them and they give you the notes, You nod and say, okay, 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 and you write it all down. And when I have friends of mine, their children, they want to get into Hollywood, and they say, hey, would you meet my daughter and talk to her about Hollywood? I said, yes. And she buys the latte, but if she doesn't bring a way to take notes, I'm leaving, because I know I'm about to waste my time. So if someone is giving you notes, especially if you're not paying them, even if you are paying them, write down everything they say. One, write it all down. Because they know if I say, oh, her hair needs to be blue instead of green, and you think, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. He knows nothing about anything. Write it down anyway, because later on, something may change, and all of a sudden the note you disagreed with may suddenly be perfect and the game changer. So write it all down. And the last thing about notes and advice is don't argue with them. And I see this all the time. And with students, it just drove me nuts. But hey, I was paid. What did I care?
Yeah.
They don't argue with it. Don't tell me why I'm wrong when I'm giving you a note. Now, we can talk about it and discuss it, but don't refute the note, because I'm going to think you're an idiot. Just write it all down and go, well, that guy was a moron later. But write it down and don't argue, because here's a story. So I have a screenplay here. Do I have one right here? No, but I have a book. So I have a book. Pretend like, oh, this is the wrong size book. You think I have a script? Here's one in a binder. So this is a screenplay that you wrote and you gave me notes. This happened, this story happened. I don't know if you know who William Goldman was. He was the greatest writer in Hollywood. He wrote The Princess Bride and he wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So a friend of his had said, Bill, my son wrote a script. Would you please give him notes? And Bill said, great. I'm like, this is like the greatest luxury in the universe. And so he opens up the script and he's flipping through it at the coffee shop. And he said, now I got some problems here with Act One. And so he's talking about Act One. And he's giving the guy notes, and every single thing Goldman says, the kid is arguing with. Said, no, you don't understand why, blah, blah, blah. So at the end of Act One, he closed the screenplay and slid it across the coffee table and said, and the rest of it is fine. So the world's greatest opportunity blown. So those are my thoughts. Write it all down and don't argue.
Yeah, it's perfect. And it's so hard to bite your tongue, because it took me a little while to get to the point of figuring that out, by the way. And all of a sudden I got into those conversations like, oh yeah, write it all down, as I do all of the time. Write it down and listen.
And then write him a thank you letter after it, or give him a little gift or something.
Yeah,
just to make him, because you may want to come back. And if you are really good and receive the notes well and have a lively back and forth conversation, they know you care, you can ask them again.
And I think that it took me a long time, just because you're so precious about it. But I've gone away from that now, because I'm very selective of who I ask to read my work.
Yeah, you got to be careful, and don't go to, like, if you know a person who's real and a person who's higher than they are on the food chain, and a person who's higher than they are on the food chain, give it to the first person first. Don't give it to the top person first. Get it as good as you can do, because you're going to only get one read out of somebody. They're going to read it one time. I mean, this is for real. Would you like to read my script because maybe you want to produce it? They'll read one time, one thing, and if it's fantastic, then you can keep moving forward. So it's got to be as perfect as you can get it. My novel, Your Mrs. Ravenbach's Way, I knew somebody. Oh, wow, that was great. There it is.
Hey, we've got a good crew working today, huh?
Fantastic. I wrote that, and a friend of mine said, oh, I know a book publisher. So this is someone real who could say yes. And so I sent her an email and I said, hey, I thank you very much for agreeing to read my book. I'm not done with it. She emailed back, whenever you're finished. 6 months after that. And I already had a draft when I emailed her and said, hey, I'll email you. I'll let you know when I'm done. So 6 months after that, I emailed her and I said, hey, I'm not done yet. I'm still here. I'm the guy in Nashville. I'm still working on it. She said, send it when you're ready. So a year after the first email, because I knew she was going to read it and I knew she could say yes, which is mind blowing. And so I got that book to where it just sang. It was as perfect as I could get it. And I sent it to her and she bought it 3 days later. And her editor told me, she said, rarely do we get a book that is this ready to go. And they had no notes.
Yeah.
And really, literally, the whole book, they said nothing about it. The final chapter, we need to reorder the action that happens in the final chapter. That was all they had to say. And
That's
so I was very proud of that, but I knew I only had one shot at her.
there's you know, I made so many TV programs and so much TV, it's ridiculous. But I learned something early on about that, and I try to impress it upon the ECU crew as well. As like me now, I'm semi-boss. Never show an idiot half-finished work. Make sure that you're happy with it before you come to me. Don't show me the draft. I don't want to see the
Don't
draft.
show them a rough cut of your film.
No.
Don't show them work print of your film. It's because they can't imagine what it will be. I mean, you show them the final movie, not say. And if they say, "Oh, I can see it with the dissolves not in there," I'll get it. I've done this a lot. Just assume they've never done it before. That's exactly right.
Yeah, never show idiots half-finished work, and make sure. And I say it ad nauseum. Are you happy with it? And they're like, what? Be happy with it. And that's an amazing thing. I mean, getting very few notes or notes on the last chapter, good for you, man. That's fabulous.
I was very pleased, and I had a good time writing it. I mean, that's the other thing is I had a good time writing the thing. Right? Because if they didn't buy it, my goal, I mean, I was hoping I could sell it, but I had to have fun writing it. I had to enjoy what I was doing. And you cannot, in my opinion, you can't write for the market. You have to write for yourself and do what's going to entertain you, what's going to keep you busy, what's going to make you want to sit down. I had a horrible first grade teacher when I was little. I hated her, and I still hate her, and she's still dead. And so rage was a great way to sit down and write. Yeah. I couldn't wait to open up that computer and write that and get in the car and dictate in that case, because I was so angry. And so I wanted to write the book. So if nobody bought it, that's okay. I wrote the book. I got done what I needed to do. And so you can't think, well, they're going to want to make this, and so I'll write that for them, because by the time you get it done, the market will have changed anyway. And that's in my book, is it talks about don't do what they want, because they really don't know what they want. Long ago, Jaws came out, and everybody said, oh, I want something like Jaws. Well, that's not right. What they wanted was what came 2 years or 3 years after Jaws, which was Star Wars. That's what they wanted, but they didn't know they wanted it until somebody gave it to them.
Yeah, I'm loving all this, because I'm this thing that I'm writing right now. The pleasure that I have to longhand write stuff and then dictate it. It's such a pleasure, and I love it. And I'm totally into that about creativity. But I mean, I have prostituted myself for my industry. When somebody's given me money, they've done their business, and I just wonder if you could explain again to the ECU crew and to the rest of the thing. I mean, I love making my films. I'm an independent film director, but to make a living, I have to do the old prostitution business.
They gotta buy it. I mean, You're not making, and I see this with student films a lot. And I've directed a bunch of shorts, and I've done this to myself. I put it this way: I almost did it to myself two times. And both times I stopped and I didn't, because I had smart people around me to smack me, and I listened to them. The movie that you wrote is different than the movie that you shot. And the movie that you got in the editing room you got to deal with is neither one of those. And it's very difficult for beginning filmmakers to understand that the movie that you've got in the editing room bears no resemblance to that thing you thought up when you had that wonderful idea. It bears no resemblance to that thing you wrote or shot. It is what it is. So you have to make that movie. You can't make either one of these two movies. They're dead. And it is very, very difficult to convince someone that's not done this a lot that you've got to make this movie, that whatever it is, you're going to make the best movie you can make out of this stuff. And in 2 times I tried to make the movie that I had in mind, because it was such a precious, fantastic, wonderful idea, and the script was so great and the actor was so great. But we got to the editing room, and always have editors that are smarter than you are. I highly
always. Yes.
And so Christina, my editor, she said to me, Will, instead of making a bad 24-minute movie, why don't we make a good 15-minute movie? And she said that, and I just went, oh my God, yes. And it was, once I got it, I threw out a third of the movie. No, way more than a third. The movie's like half of it. Just threw out half. Because I made a good 12-minute movie that won awards at film festivals, as opposed to a bad 24-minute movie was the one that I had to make.
It's so hard to let go.
You're not making a very expensive home movie for an audience of one, basically.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. I wanted to go down that path just because of that, but I want to just jump back to the handing your script over to people, and you mentioned friends, and your peers and the people that are in the business can help you. But I did want to ask you something, and I know this is something in your bio. This is what you do about consulting on scripts and stuff. So hopefully we can get some business for you out of this. But I remember that the first fiction film that I wrote after writing hundreds of documentaries and TV bits, I actually sent it off to a company to give me coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked in Hollywood a lot, and the thought was abhorrent to me, but I also just realized that I needed a hand, and
you need someone who's not invested in it, who's not you.
Exactly. The wife don't do it anymore. She's told me all this. And I used a company called Script Shark. I don't believe they're around anymore, but it was basically what you were saying about taking notes on it. But I paid a couple of $100 for it. It came back, and it was like it lit up light bulbs. I didn't agree with everything, that's for sure, but it was looked at by a professional screenwriter, great comments, things that I hadn't thought of, and things I thought, well, they're morons, they don't get me on this. But it was that retwigging. I used to work with an executive producer, who's a good friend of mine. I used to go and make films on the French Foreign Legion, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I'd make this amazing film, and I'd been out in the jungles and deserts and sick and nearly got blown up by a landmine and whatever. And I'd get in, I'd show him this film, and he's gone, that's good, but let's pick it up, shake it around, and see if we can make it better. It used to drive me insane.
And you go, no, it's as good as it could possibly be. Leave me alone, you beast.
Yeah.
And then after that, you go, wait a minute, that was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, fine. Let's roll up our sleeves and go to work and fix it.
It was hard to do, but and even if it was only 5% better, it was 5% better.
Exactly. I mean, I was talking to a producer the other day, and he was calling me from his car going to a film festival of a film he produced that wasn't that good, because the director wouldn't listen to him in post. And so they made the movie, and the director won the fights, and they go to the thing, and the director comes out of the screening at the film festival and says, "You were right." That's too late.
It's too late then, buddy. It's gone. It's been printed. William, we're like brothers from another mother here, because everything you're saying is amazing, and I think it's validating a lot of what we talk about here. And I know there's a lot of independent filmmakers who are sitting there going, who are these two morons and what are they doing? But everybody remembers what they hear, see, smell, and taste, and I'm hoping that it's gonna sink in. I've got a few more notes here, but I don't want to bore you for too much, so I'm going to hand you over to the man who brings the power to ECU every single day and is the holder of all things good and right, and that's Rodrigo, and he will ask a few questions from the ECU crew. Okay, Rodrigo, it's all yours.
Hello, William. So thank you very much. My first question for you is actually a question for me. When do you think is worth fighting about an idea that you want? Even if everybody tells you it's awful, but you just really believe about it, when should you say, okay, enough is enough, let it go?
Wow, what a great question. That's what a terrifying thing. The idea is everything. It's the single most important thing. And I'm older than most of you folks, so I got a lot less time than you do to do things. So I got to be really careful what I pick to do. But when you're 20, you still have to be careful, because if you pick the wrong idea, you don't know, you go down this road and you spend all this time doing it, and it was the wrong idea. So you got to really, really pound it and ask people and tell it to people and pitch it and give people a one-page synopsis and do all kinds of things to figure out, is this what I want to do? Or, I wrote a script about the fall of Saigon. I was vacuuming my mother's rug, and I had read a Rolling Stone article, and it hit me exactly. I want to do a thing about the fall of Saigon, like Stagecoach in a Verse, where we meet all the people and they all end up together on the helicopter going off the roof of the embassy at the end. That sounded great. And I wrote that, and it got a green light, and then it got bungled, and it didn't get made. But it made me a lot of money, so that was good. But I just knew it. I thought, this is a movie. And I'd never stopped. So I was on just railroad tracks from the very beginning. But I could have been wrong. It's really, you have to pound your idea really, really, really hard for a long time and talk to a lot of people about it. It makes a big difference.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Our next question comes from Emma.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hello.
I was wondering whether, like, your book can give tips for films that are non-narrative or screenplays that are tend to be experimental. Like, is it possible even to give tips for these kind of films?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I'm really glad you asked. I went to USC Film School. This is an odd answer, but the answer is yes. I went to USC Film School, and they said 3-act structure until it bleeds out your eyes. And we argued, but we did what they told us to do. And at the end of the year, we would have film festivals with other film schools. And this one that came, they didn't have the 3-act structure pounded into them. And what was the most interesting thing, and this is your answer to your question, is we showed experimental films. They showed experimental films. Their experimental films were just a big chaotic mess of like silliness, because they had no structure. They had no story. Even in an experimental film, like if it starts off as icicles and goes to melted water and then goes to steam, that's a story. But you just got ice and water and steam and air and ice and water, whatever, then you don't have a plan, you're dead. And so experimental films have to have, in my opinion, have to have a structure, have beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you have some idea in your own mind, we don't ever have to know. But if there's a story to carry you through your experimental film, you're in way better shape than just like throwing pictures up on screen. I think experimental film is the hardest one to do of all successfully. It's really, really hard. So structure will save you.
Thank you, Raj. Our next question comes from Allah.
Hello, hi William. Thank you so much for all of these wonderful notes. I'm actually heading for creative script writing masters in a couple of months, and they will come in very, very handy. I have a quick question for you.
Is somebody's music on? I'm hearing music. Are we supposed to be hearing
Yeah,
music?
it's a music for background.
Go for it. Sorry, ask the question, please.
So I have 2 quick questions for you. The first one is, once you have the logline in mind and you want to start creating the story and you want to start building up the characters, what are the key points that you should keep in mind before building up the main characters, and while building them up?
Well, first of all, your logline is crucially important. I mean, it's very simple, but it's very important. You got to know 3 things. Who's the main character? What do they want? And who's trying to stop them? That's the logline. It's not what happens in Act 2 and Act 3. It's just those things. So once you get that right, and you can tell from reading somebody's logline if they don't know what their story is. So the logline's got to be bulletproof. Then, in fact, thank you for the question, because now I can segue on Key to Storytelling. We sell a character development workbook, and it's like 19 lessons in build a character from start to finish. So go by that. But basically, the steps you begin at the beginning of what your character wants. That's the key thing. If you know that, what they want, and they have to want it. My line is they have to want it more than anything in the world. They have to want it desperately. They can't just want it. And then who's trying to stop them, the logline thing, and then why that person wants it. And then so you build these 2 people to bang into each other for the course of your story. But the key thing, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is that how the main character at the beginning, he or she, they've got a problem. They are unaware of the inner problem they've got that's ruining their life. They don't know about that. They know what they want. I want another cup of coffee. That's my goal for the movie. But I'm a rotten person on the inside. Well, then enter the opponent, and the opponent makes them, by the climax, change who they need to be so they can defeat the opponent, but it also makes them a better person. And that's what happened in Casablanca, is he's a selfish jerk. He wants his old girlfriend back, but he really needs to, and what he does by the end is he sacrifices what he's wanted the whole time because she's the opponent, and she convinces him through, combat, that he needs to be a better person. And so he gives up the thing he wanted to win the war for the Allies. And that's what you just need to build the characters out to where that main thing is happening. And then how do you do that? And then also the supporting characters, they're also somehow pounding the main character on their inner problem.
Thank you so much.
Hope that
And
helped.
the jumping, yeah, that answers everything. And for the second question, of course, even if the script is fully written and it's wonderful and it's amazing, you need to attract the audience or whoever's going to be reading it, and that comes by the title. How or what makes the title of the script or the movie perfect for whatever you wrote?
So you got the thing about the title is if I'm a reader and I got to go home this weekend and read 15 scripts or 7 scripts or whatever, and I got a pile and I got to pick which of the 2 I'm going to read, all I got to make that decision is the title. I'm either going to pick this one or I'm going to pick this one. And if I don't pick this one, it may never get read and this one might get made, who knows. But if this one's got a crummy title, like Will's Wonderful Movie, that ain't going to help you. So I've got a screenplay I'm working on now. I've got a file in my computer and I'm title crazy. I got 200 titles in there that is just a list of possible titles with asterisks every now and then down by the best ones. And finally, when I'm done with the script, I'm going to go through that and boil it down and figure out the one title that's the one. I mean, my all-time favorite title is Blade Runner. I don't know what that movie's about, but I really want to see it. Jaws is a good one. Just you need to look at movie titles, and you can't go to a record store anymore, which is too bad. But I used to go and flip through the records and see the names of the songs. Song titles make great titles. Well, there you go. There's something you could do.
Thank you so much. That answers everything. Thank you so much, William.
You're welcome.
And our last question comes from Michaela.
How do you do?
Hello. So I actually have also 2 questions. And my first question is about you're a very admired person and a lot of people follow you. So how do you work with the attention during the process of creation or writing? Or if you even think of it, how do you deal with it?
How do I deal with what the people
with
are
the attention. Yes, with the people out there.
I'm completely unaware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit there and Hillary, my business partner, and we think, what should we talk about in the next 10 Instagram reels and the next carousels that we're going to do? What's important to us? What do we think people ought to know? Now, we do read the comments, obviously, and every now and then someone will suggest, hey, I'd like to know about this. So we take that into account. But I just think about what I want someone to know about what I'm trying to tell them, what's important to me, and then hopefully it'll be important to them. And I'm very happy with the response we've gotten, because that means that what's important to the 2 of us is important to a lot of people. And what we think is important in storytelling matters, but we're just doing it for ourselves. And fortunately, people have come along.
And my second question is about more storytelling. You already mentioned that there is a lot of happening in one story, supporting characters. So how do you get to the point, like, to make it work all together? Because sometimes when I'm creating something, I get lost because I have a lot of ideas, and then eventually I just don't know how to put it all together because it's a chaos.
Sure. Well, that's completely normal. I want to talk about one thing in a minute. Let me circle it on my little notes because I want to get to it if you have time. But you have to think about why you want to tell this story and what the key idea for the story is. Just if you can find it in one line of dialogue that's in there, this is my movie. Everything is about this one thing. And I think of that as a clothesline in your backyard with the clothes hanging on it, or the scenes in your movie. But the clothesline is that core idea that is everything. Some call it the spine of your movie. But if this scene or this part of this scene is not about that one thing, it falls off and disappears. But once you know what it's about, the one thing that it's about, it's very easy to take this out and take this out and take all of that out, because it's not about your thing. And I did a short film and we knew it. It was one line of dialogue in the movie was what the movie was about. And it made everything easy because it wasn't about that. I don't know if you've seen the movie Little Miss Sunshine, but Little Miss Sunshine is the grandfather gives the little girl advice at the very end. And I'm probably going to cry when I say it, because it's what the movie is about. He says, if you don't try, losers are people who don't try. That's what he says. Because you may win tomorrow, you may lose tomorrow, but you're going to try. And that means you've won. And so he says that, but that's what the entire movie is about, that one sentence. for every single character in the movie. So that know that, and your life will be much easier.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
It's-
So we're going back to you, Scott.
Yeah, so it's basically, when we had this discussion with Kelly the other day, it's keep it simple, stupid, but you have to go through a lot of work to keep it simple. That's
Yeah.
you know, and the clothesline analogy is fabulous because it really does. You do a lot of stuff. It's never wasted. I think we were worried about wasting time.
Oh no, you cut the scene, you learn something while you were writing it, or you may take something from it in another project. You never throw it away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never, time is never wasted. Like when I made my short film and I threw out half of it, that time was not wasted at all, because the half that stayed was better because we made the half that existed and it affected the half that stayed. So it's never, don't feel bad when you cut something. The great thing is that you learn over time, like if this is your scene and you think, okay, here's the middle, I got to take the middle out. So you take the middle out and then all of a sudden the top and the bottom connect. Somehow, suddenly the top and the bottom together, shorter, without the middle, are way more powerful than they were when they were spread apart. But you can't know that without taking the thing out.
And you have to have created that whole big thing before you get to that.
Yeah, you can't. And so, yeah, you cannot beat yourself up because you didn't know it. You just know it when you finally know it. I don't know how much time I got, but I want to tell you this one thing because I think it's really important. And I only found this out some years ago. I'm suffered for forever and found it out. So I was teaching at a university about 2 weeks ago, and I asked those screenwriting students, and I said to them, all of them in the room, I said, how many of you in the middle of your project, so it starts and then it begins to get harder and worse and go downhill and downhill. How many of you in the middle hate the project and hate yourselves and think you're completely devoid of talent? And they all of them raised their hand. And then I said, okay, how many of you looking around the room knew that the other people in the room were feeling the same way? None of them. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. This happens to everybody in every artistic, if you're writing music, if you're painting, if you're writing, it's all the same. In the middle, the project falls apart. And if you know that, and I've told you all this now, you all now know it. So when you get to the bottom of the trough and you want to quit because this thing you've created is dreck, awful, and you're terrible, just keep fighting. And then all of a sudden you'll come up with a good idea, and then it'll start to get better and better, and then everything's fine. But if you quit at the bottom, you're never getting done. But just know when you get to the bottom, every other artistic person is there with you. It happens to everybody. It isn't you. It isn't just you. It's everybody. Man, once I learned that, it made it a lot easier because I'm taking painting classes now, and I'm a kind of an okay painter. I know how to write. But when I'm taking a painting class, so when I get to the bottom when I'm writing, I know what to do. But in a painting class, all I want to do is quit because this painting is awful. And then I can't because I'm paying the money and I got to be there. And so I keep working, and all of a sudden you do two things and the painting gets better. And it's great. So know that. Because when it gets bad in the middle, just stick with it.
It's like a hard gym session or life in general. It is hard and there's nothing easy. My mother is not a great mother, but she did teach me something you don't get something for nothing. And it's, I work hard, and everybody that does reach a certain level of success, it's only hard work. There's a modicum of talent, but it's a lot of hard work.
Persistence and determination and work ethic. I mean, the super talented person that isn't out there grinding it out, they're going to disappear. The one who's a little bit below them in the talent scale, who is a professional in attitude, they're going to make it.
Yeah. William, this is absolutely amazing, and I hope you don't mind, but I think that we're going to reach back out to you at some times because I've gotten a lot out of this, and I know the rest of the crew has as well. I'm going to give another plug to your book, which is Your Screenplay Sucks: 100 Ways to Make It Great.
And please go to the Key to Storytelling website, keytostorytelling.com, because we're about to have our first class that we're selling, a pre-recorded screenwriting class that you can buy starting this month. And it'll teach you a bunch of stuff. So that's available. And then the character workbook, which I think is very helpful, and people are using that and saying, "Ooh, this is great." So that's been nice.
Yeah, and the Key to Storytelling Instagram, where you're up there telling us all about how how sucky we are, but just keep working on it and giving us tips. That's
It'll
great.
be better.
So this is great. It's absolutely fabulous, actually, and it fits right into what we do and how we do it, and
Fantastic.
a lot of eager minds and whatever. So I love it, talking to real people who do real jobs, and I will be buying this book. So there's no problem then. And I'm sure Alla's going to buy that and the character one as well, and I'll steal it one day when he leaves the office. Just a few takeaways from what again, take notes, everybody. They laugh at me. They think I'm a boring old man, which of course I am. But when you can take notes, read about it, show people, take notes. So the thing is that what I'm going to take away from today is printing stuff out and reading it. Please do it. Listen to notes, even if you think they're rubbish. Pound your idea. You didn't say it like this, but I know that you believe that it's story, and story. That
Absolutely.
if you're making a little film here for Eku, or you're making a feature film, it's all about the story. Tell the story, know what it's like in your head. Log lines, it was a very good conversation about that. The log lines is good. Titles. So many people don't understand the title. You've said it outright. It's very funny that you said it, you pick it right at the end. I normally get there halfway, choose one, and then I get to the end and then choose another one. So I guess I do it a little bit the same. The word that sticks out most for me is just professionalism. Screenwriting, any form of writing, is being professional.
Absolutely.
If you don't do it every day, or have a plan to say, I will write this in this time frame and do that, and get up every day and write it, you won't make it. You have to be professional. I think that's primordial, and you don't get anything easily without working. Work-life balance is great. Just do a lot of work, and then the balance will come. That's where I am. William, what a pleasure. What a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you very much. Thanks for asking me.
Thank you very much for the Eku crew who put this together. Michaela, you were the one that found Williams. Thank you very much. All of the crew, the two crew over here who are working away, they're the guys that make it all happen.
Thank you.
And Rodrigo, who keeps the power on day and night. So thank you very much. Everybody have a great weekend. Again, just a quick plug for Eku, the European Independent Film Festival. We're open for submissions, as we are for the All Asian Independent Film Festival. Story. Make the films and send it to us. William, what a pleasure. We're gonna be back with you again soon.
Thank you.
Great. Have a great weekend. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.